My dad didn't buy me food at 15, so I got a job to survive. My stepmom then demanded half my paycheck and I took legal action to escape. What's up, you all? Life sucks right now. I'm Mike, 15, and honestly, it feels like I'm just stuck in survival mode all the time. Let me back up a bit. My parents split when I was 9 and my dad got custody. At first I thought that was better. My mom didn't seem too interested in me anyway. Living with my dad wasn't exactly great either, though. He worked weird hours, was barely around, and when he was home, he didn't act like much of a parent. It's not like he was mean or anything, but it was like I didn't exist to him most of the time. He never asked me about school or whether I needed anything, just silence. The food situation was especially rough. The fridge was almost always empty, and when there was something in there, it was random stuff like ketchup or a leftover slice of stale bread. I learned quickly that if I didn't figure out food for myself, I wasn't eating. School lunches became my lifeline, but weekends were the worst. There were times I'd go through the pantry and find nothing but expired cans or a pack of crackers someone forgot about. A lot of nights I just went to bed hungry, hoping the growling in my stomach would quiet down if I fell asleep fast enough. And yeah, I got desperate enough to dig through restaurant dumpsters a few times. I know it's nasty and embarrassing, but when you're starving, you stop caring. At school, I tried to act like everything was fine. I didn't want to be the kid people felt sorry for. It's not like I had a ton of friends, but the ones I did have didn't need to know I was basically living off scraps. So I kept my head down, focused on not drawing attention, and tried to get through the day without my stomach growling loud enough for the whole class to hear. Eventually, I got tired of feeling like this. I wanted some control over my life. That's when I decided to look for a job. Problem is, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was 15 with zero work experience. Who's going to hire me? I applied everywhere. Fast food places, grocery stores, even this shady gas station. Weeks went by, and nobody called me back. I started thinking maybe I was stuck like this forever. But then I got lucky. This tiny convenience store finally gave me a shot. The work wasn't glamorous, stocking shelves, running the register, cleaning up messes, but it was a job. I wasn't going to complain. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough to buy some bread, milk, and maybe a bag of chips if I was feeling fancy. That first paycheck felt amazing, and I started to feel like I wasn't completely helpless. I didn't have to wait around for my dad to remember I existed or hope the school lunch lady wouldn't notice me sneaking an extra apple. I could take care of myself, at least a little. But it was also hard. Balancing work and school turned out to be way harder than I thought. I'd get home from my shifts completely wiped, with no energy left for homework. My grades started slipping, and a couple of my teachers pulled me aside to ask if everything was okay. What was I supposed to say? That I had to work because if I didn't, I wouldn't eat? So I lied. I told them I was just tired, that I'd catch up soon. But deep down I knew I was barely hanging on. Every day felt like I was running on empty, just trying to make it to the next meal, the next shift, the next day. On top of all that, I started noticing things about my dad that didn't sit right. He was always saying how he worked so hard to provide for us, but I never saw where that money went. He'd come home late looking all stressed out, but the bills still piled up and the house still felt like it was falling apart. I didn't ask questions, though. What was the point? I kept telling myself this was temporary, that if I could just make it through high school, I'd be able to move out, get a better job, and leave all this behind. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was all I had. Then one day I came home from my shift, and there was a stranger sitting in our living room. A beautiful woman dressed all fancy, nails done, with this weird smile plastered on her face. I stood there staring, trying to figure out what was going on. Turns out this was Lisa, my dad's new wife. Apparently, while I was out here working just to keep myself fed, my dad had been busy getting married without even letting me know. I didn't even know he was dating anyone. It was like this huge life decision happened and I wasn't even an afterthought. When I asked him what was going on, he just shrugged and said, "It's nothing for you to worry about." Oh, cool, thanks, Dad. Maybe it's not my business that he's dating someone, but at least he could tell me that this someone was coming to live with us. Lisa moved in a week later, everything changed, and not in a good way. She came in like she was running the place, redecorating the house and making all these new rules. Suddenly my shoes couldn't be by the door, the TV couldn't be left on, and even the way I folded my laundry was wrong. At first I tried to stay out of her way. I figured if I just kept my head down, things would blow over, but nah. She had this way of making me feel like I didn't belong in my own house. She'd rearrange things and then get mad when I messed it up. Like, "Sorry for opening the pantry to grab food, Lisa. My bad for existing." Speaking of food, that became a whole new issue. Lisa cooked meals, but only enough for her and my dad. If I wanted to eat, I had to figure it out on my own. And if I tried to grab leftovers, forget it, she'd throw out anything extra before I could even get to it. Once I tried to eat some rice she left on the stove and she told me, "That's not for you." It was like she went out of her way to make sure I felt like an outsider. My dad didn't do anything about it, of course. If anything, he seemed totally fine with it. He'd sit there letting Lisa run the show, acting like this was all normal. I started avoiding the kitchen altogether just to avoid the awkwardness. Most nights I'd just eat something small in my room. Bread, maybe some ramen if I had it. It didn't stop there, though. Lisa didn't just take over the house. She started butting into my life, too. She had opinions about everything. How I dressed, how I kept my room, even how I spent my time. She once told me my clothes made me look sloppy and that I should at least try to look decent. I wanted to tell her to mind her own business, but what was the point? Things hit a new low when she found out I was working. I guess she noticed me coming home late after my shifts or saw my uniform in the laundry. Instead of being impressed that I was handling my own stuff, she got mad. Like, actually mad. She cornered me one evening and started grilling me about why I hadn't told her I had a job. I tried to explain that it wasn't really her business, but she wasn't having it. "If you're earning money, you need to contribute to this household," she said, all serious. I told her I barely made enough to cover food and school supplies for myself, but she didn't care. "That's not my problem," she said. From then on, she demanded I either give her half my paycheck or start paying rent. Rent to live in a house where I wasn't even allowed to eat the food. I couldn't believe it. I tried talking to my dad, hoping he'd back me up, but nope. He just nodded along with Lisa, saying it was time I learned some responsibility. I am so furious right now. What can I do? Should I give her half of my paycheck? I already earn so little, and this job is what keeps me alive. I can't imagine how I could survive if I gave her half of it, but the first also know that she won't back down even if I begged her. Please, guys, tell me what I should do. I really need help. Update 1. Hey, guys. I just wanted you to know that I caved and gave her the paycheck. I didn't know what else to do. The pressure was unbearable, and honestly I was terrified she'd convince my dad to kick me out if I didn't. But of course it didn't stop there. Once I started handing over half my paycheck, you'd think Lisa would back off a bit. Like, okay, I'm contributing, so maybe she'd stop treating me like the enemy. But if anything, it just made her worse. Every week when I got paid, she was waiting for her cut. I'd barely be through the door before she'd hold out her hand like a debt collector. "You know the rules," she'd say with this smug smile. Rules like I'd signed some contract agreeing to this madness. Half my pay gone before I even had a chance to think about what I needed. With what was left, I'd scrape by. Bread, ramen, maybe some fruit if it was cheap. Forget about anything extra. Every dollar was stretched thin, and even then it didn't feel like enough. What pissed me off is that it didn't stop at taking my money. She kept adding more to my responsibilities. It wasn't just cleaning up after myself anymore. I was expected to clean the whole house, scrub the bathroom, vacuum the living room, do the dishes, all of it. And of course it was never good enough. She'd walk around after I finished, pointing out random spots I missed or telling me I didn't put enough effort in. At this point, I was barely sleeping. Between school, work, and all the extra chores, I felt like a zombie. I'd come home from a shift dead tired, and there'd be a pile of dirty dishes waiting for me. If I tried to leave them for the next day, Lisa would lose it. She'd bang on my door yelling about how I was ungrateful and disrespectful. It wasn't just the chores either. Lisa had this habit of going through my stuff when I wasn't home. I'd come back from work and find my backpack open, my drawers rifled through. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it, but then I noticed things missing, small amounts of cash, snacks I'd bought for myself, even some personal stuff like my notebook. When I confronted her, she acted all innocent. "Oh, I was just tidying up," she'd say with that fake smile. Tidying up, really? Taking my money and snacks was tidying up? The worst part was how she justified it. "You live under this roof, so you should be contributing more," she'd say. "It's not fair for your dad and me to do everything." While I was the one doing all the chores, paying half my paycheck and taking care of myself. What exactly were they doing? Even school became impossible to focus on. I'd sit in class barely able to keep my eyes open, and my teachers would ask if I was okay. What was I supposed to say? "Oh yeah, everything's great. I'm just a full-time maid who also works a part-time job to pay rent to my dad's new wife?" I couldn't even talk to my friends about it. They didn't know what was going on, and I didn't want to explain. Most of them had normal homes with parents who actually cared about them. They'd never understand what it felt like to live like this. It was around this time that I started noticing something else. While I was barely scraping by, Lisa and my dad seemed to be living just fine. New clothes, fancy takeout, random shopping bags that Lisa brought home almost every week. Where was all that money coming from? My dad wasn't exactly rolling in cash, and Lisa didn't have a job. I tried not to think about it, but it nagged at me. How were they affording all this while I was paying half my paycheck and still going hungry? All I can do is survive, one day at a time, one paycheck at a time. But deep down, I know this isn't sustainable. Something has to give eventually. I just don't know when or how. Maybe Lisa will someday stop tormenting me and leave me alone, or maybe my dad will try to change what's happening. I really don't know. But I know that I'm tired of all of this. If anything changes, I'll probably post an update. Update 2. Hey, it's Mike again. You won't believe what happened these last few days. When everything piles up, there's always a breaking point, right? Like, you can deal with crap for so long, but eventually something tips the scale. For me, it happened one Thursday after work. I got home exhausted as always and went straight to my room to drop my stuff. I was planning to grab some food, or whatever I could find, and crash early. But when I opened my backpack, something felt off. I always kept my tip money in a small envelope tucked in a side pocket. It wasn't much, but I'd been saving it for weeks to get new shoes for school. My current pair had holes in them, and with the rainy season coming up, I was sick of walking around with soggy socks. But when I reached for the envelope, it was gone. At first, I thought maybe I misplaced it. I emptied out my entire bag, flipping through every notebook and pocket, but it wasn't there. My stomach sank. There was only one explanation, Lisa. She had gone through my bag again. The anger hit me like a wave. That money wasn't just cash. It was weeks of work, hours spent on my feet at the store, customers yelling at me over 50-cent price differences. It was mine, and now it was gone. I stormed out of my room and headed straight for the living room, where Lisa was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. My dad was next to her, half watching TV, not even noticing I was there. "Where the hell is my money?" I shouted. My voice was loud enough to make Lisa jump, but she recovered quickly, acting all casual as she lounged on the couch. "What money?" she asked, not even bothering to look at me, flipping through her phone like I didn't exist. "The tips from my bag," I said, my voice rising. "I know you took it. It was there this morning, and now it's gone." She finally glanced up at me, her face completely unfazed. "Oh, that? I used it for groceries. You live here, don't you? It's only fair you help out." "Fair?" I yelled, my fists clenched. "Are you freaking kidding me? I already give you half my paycheck every week. I do all the housework, and now you're just stealing from me? You didn't even ask." She tried to put on the innocence mask. "Don't be so dramatic, Mike. It's just money. You'll earn more." "That wasn't for you," I snapped. "That money was for shoes. I've been saving for weeks because my shoes are falling apart, and you just—" "Don't raise your voice at me, kid," she interrupted sharply. "You're living under our roof, eating our food, and using our electricity. If anything, you should be giving us more." I turned to my dad, desperate for him to step in. "You're okay with this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "She's stealing from me, and you're just letting her get away with it?" He barely glanced up from the TV, his expression blank. "Lisa's right. We're all contributing here. You need to stop acting like a spoiled brat." And that was it. That was the moment I realized I was completely alone in this house. It didn't matter how much I gave, how hard I worked, or how much I sacrificed. To them, I wasn't family. I wasn't even a person. I was just a convenience, a resource they could drain to make their lives easier. My throat burned, and my chest felt tight, but I refused to let them see me break. I marched back to my room and slammed the door. Sitting on the edge of my bed, my fists shaking in my lap, I knew I couldn't keep living like this. They weren't going to stop. No matter how much I gave, it would never be enough. But where could I go? Who could I turn to? I was trapped, furious, and completely alone. Something had to give, but I had no idea what to do next. Then, almost without thinking, I picked up my phone. My fingers hovered over the numbers, trembling slightly as I tried to decide if I should really go through with it. A number I hadn't used in years flickered in the back of my mind, one I thought I'd forgotten until now. My mom. I hadn't spoken to her since I was 10. Back then she'd called once to wish me a happy birthday, but the conversation had been short and awkward. After that, she disappeared completely. No visits, no phone calls, not even a text. I hated the idea of calling her, but I didn't have a choice. The phone rang twice before she answered. Then I heard her voice for the first time in years. Hello? For a second I froze. I didn't know what to say. It's me, I finally managed. Mike. There was a pause, and then she said, Mike, is everything okay? That question broke something in me. I hadn't heard genuine concern in someone's voice in so long that I didn't know how to handle it. Before I knew it, everything started pouring out, the neglect, the money, the chores, the constant feeling of being unwanted. I told her about how Lisa treated me, how my dad let it happen, and how they'd stolen my savings. By the time I was done, I was shaking. I thought maybe I'd said too much, or that she'd think I was being dramatic. But when she spoke, her voice wasn't calm. It was angry. He's been taking child support this whole time, she said. I blinked. What? I've been sending him money every month since the divorce, she said, trying to explain to me what child support is. It was supposed to be for you, for food, clothes, school supplies. And he's been keeping it? I was confused. All those years of struggling, going hungry, wearing the same beat-up clothes, feeling like I had to fend for myself. It didn't have to be that way. He had the money. He just chose not to spend it on me. I'll figure something out, she said after a moment. You can't stay there. I'll talk to someone, maybe get a lawyer involved. But you have to hang on a little longer while I sort this out. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to tell her it wasn't that easy, that things were too messed up. But hearing her say she'd try to help, really help, made something inside me loosen. For the first time, it felt like there might actually be a way out. I took a deep breath and said, Okay. The call ended, but my mind kept racing. It wasn't a fix, not yet, but it was more than I'd had in years. I'm not completely alone anymore. Someone now knows what I'm going through, apart from you guys, and will actually do something about it. Since my mom didn't give a crap about me all these years, I'm also wondering why she's stepping in now. When I called her, I thought she would hang up on me the second she heard my voice. What do you guys think? Update 3. Hey guys, I came to tell you how everything started to flip over. Remember when I told you I didn't know how to feel when my mom said she'd try to help? While it felt good to hear her say she'd do something, part of me couldn't help but wonder if she really cared about me or if she was just mad about the money she'd been sending all these years. I mean, it's not like she'd been around before. Was this about me, or was it about her feeling ripped off? Turns out it was probably more about the money. She had no idea my dad had been taking her payments and doing who knows what with them. I remember when I told her on that phone call that I'd been working to survive. She was furious, not because of what I went through, but because she'd been footing the bill for years without seeing where it was going. He's been stealing from both of us, she said, her voice sharp. Anyway, after the call, I tried not to let myself get too excited. I didn't want to trust her completely. Not yet. What if she changed her mind? What if she got busy and forgot about me again? But at the same time, I couldn't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, this could be my way out. In the days that followed, things at home got worse. Lisa must have sensed that I was pulling away because she doubled down on her usual garbage, more chores, more snide remarks, more accidental invasions of my space. She even started throwing out food I bought for myself, saying it was cluttering up her kitchen. But through all that, my mom surprised me. Whatever her motivation, she didn't waste time. She got a lawyer involved almost immediately. The next thing I knew, my dad got served with legal papers. Watching him freak out was honestly kind of satisfying. Let me tell you how this happened. Before things got to court, my mom told me we needed solid proof to back up what I was saying. She couldn't just rely on my story, she needed evidence. So I started paying closer attention to everything happening at home. First, I kept track of where my dad was spending his time. He always claimed he was working long hours to support the family, but I never bought it. Most days he left late and came home whenever he felt like it. He didn't seem stressed about money either, which didn't add up if he was actually struggling. Then one day I overheard him talking on the phone in the kitchen. He was laughing, saying something about finally having some time off. That's when it clicked. He wasn't working full-time anymore. I started digging through his stuff whenever he wasn't home, looking for anything that could prove it. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. In his desk drawer, I found a resignation letter addressed to his job, dated months ago. Apparently he'd quit, but he never told anyone. He'd been lying to my mom and me, pretending he was working to justify keeping her child support payments. But that wasn't all. I also found receipts for expensive dinners, shopping trips, and even a weekend getaway Lisa had taken. It was clear where the money was going, straight into funding their lifestyle while I was stuck paying rent and eating garbage. I took pictures of everything, emails, receipts, the resignation letter. It all went into a folder on my phone. I felt like some kind of detective piecing together a case against them. When the day in court finally came, I was nervous as hell. I'd never been in a courtroom before, and the idea of standing up there telling everyone about my life made me sick to my stomach. But I knew I had to do it. My mom didn't waste any time. When we got in there, her lawyer laid everything out, the years of child support payments, the proof that my dad had quit his job, the receipts showing where the money went. My dad didn't even try to deny it at first. He just sat there looking like a deer caught in headlights. But when the judge started asking him questions, he tried to spin it. He said he'd been using the money to keep a roof over my head and support the household. The judge didn't seem convinced, especially when my mom's lawyer pointed out that I was paying rent and working to buy my own food. When it was my turn to speak, I felt my hands shaking as I stood up. I took a deep breath and started telling them everything. How I'd been working as a child, how Lisa made me hand over half my paycheck, how I had to do all the chores while they lived like royalty. I told them about the nights I went to bed hungry, the mornings I skipped breakfast because there was nothing to eat. By the time I finished, I felt like I'd been holding my breath the whole time. I looked at my dad, hoping he'd show some kind of remorse, but he just looked shocked, like he couldn't believe I had the guts to say it all out loud. Lisa wasn't there. She didn't even bother to show up. The judge listened carefully, asking a few questions here and there. I told him about finding the resignation letter and showed him the pictures I'd taken of the receipts and emails. My mom's lawyer handed over copies of everything, and the judge flipped through it all, his face getting more serious by the second. When he finally spoke, I'll never forget the look on my dad's face. The judge ruled in my mom's favor. She got custody of me, and they ordered my dad to pay back all the child support he'd taken and to start paying my mom directly moving forward. The judge also threw in a warning about his behavior, saying that if he pulled anything like this again, there'd be serious consequences. My dad didn't say a word. He just sat there staring at the table like it might swallow him whole. Walking out of that courtroom felt surreal. I finally felt like someone had actually stood up for me. My mom, despite her rocky history with me, had come through. I wasn't sure if it was because she cared about me or because she hated that my dad had taken advantage of her. But either way, it didn't matter. Justice had been served. It might look like a happy ending, but it's really not that simple. My mom doesn't exactly want to be a mom, but she agreed to let me live with her as long as I keep working and taking care of myself. She's giving me a place to stay, and honestly, it's better than being stuck with Lisa and Dad, so I'll take it. I'm not expecting her to suddenly turn into the world's best mom or anything. We're basically roommates at this point. Honestly, it works out for her too. She gets to save money now that she's not paying child support, and I don't have to deal with my dad and Lisa anymore. It's not perfect, but it's a step up from where I was. I'll leave the story here for now. I might come back with an update after I see how things go with my mom. Final update. Hey, it's Mike again. I thought I'd give you an update since things have actually changed a lot over the past year. I'm 17 now, and I'm finally out of my dad's house. Honestly, it feels like I escaped a sinking ship. If you've been following my story, you know my mom stepped in and got custody after taking my dad to court. I moved in with her right after the judge's ruling. It wasn't a smooth transition, though. My mom and I didn't exactly have a close relationship, and it showed at first. It felt like I was just staying with a distant relative. She didn't suddenly become a warm and loving parent overnight. She's not that type. But at least she gave me a roof over my head and stopped treating me like a walking ATM. So there's that. Living with my mom was weird at first. She had her own routines and wasn't used to having me around. I tried to keep my head down and not be a bother. I was actually used to doing that with Lisa. But it was hard not to feel out of place. She's not the sit down and talk about your feelings kind of person. Most of our conversations were about practical stuff, school, chores, groceries. But you know what? Even if she wasn't super involved, she at least made sure I had food to eat and clean clothes. That alone was a huge step up from what I was dealing with at my dad's place. I kept my part-time job even though my mom told me I didn't have to. I just couldn't imagine not working. I guess I got so used to relying on myself that I didn't want to give that up. Plus, having my own money felt good. It gave me a sense of independence I wasn't ready to let go of. I haven't seen or heard much from my dad since I left, which is fine by me. From what my mom told me, he's been struggling to pay back all the child support he owes. Apparently, he had to pick up a second job just to keep up with the court's demands. Lisa? Who knows what she's up to? My mom said they're still together, but it's not like I care. I did hear from one of my cousins that my dad's been telling everyone I turned on him and made his life harder. Like, dude, you did that to yourself. I'm not losing sleep over it. If he wants to play the victim, that's on him. School's been better since I moved out. I can actually focus now that I'm not running on 2 hours of sleep and a pack of ramen. My grades aren't amazing, but they've improved a lot. I even started thinking about college, which is something I never thought I'd consider before. Work's still tough, but I've gotten better at managing my time. My boss at the store is pretty chill, and they've been giving me more hours since I've proven I can handle it. I've even started saving up for a car, which feels like a huge step toward getting more freedom. The best part? I don't have to hand over half my paycheck anymore. Every dollar I make is mine, and it feels amazing to finally have control over my own money. One thing I've realized over the past year is that it takes time to unlearn all the stuff I went through with my dad and Lisa. For a long time, I felt like I was just surviving, like I was stuck in fight-or-flight mode. Moving in with my mom forced me to confront a lot of the anger and resentment I'd been carrying around. I'm still working through it. Some days are better than others. I've been trying to think about the future more. I turn 18 in less than a year, and I'm already making plans to move out and get my own place. Don't get me wrong, living with my mom has been way better than being at my dad's, but I want to stand on my own 2 feet. College is still up in the air. I'm looking into trade schools and other options that won't leave me buried in debt. Right now, I'm leaning towards something in construction or mechanics. I like the idea of building something with my hands, something tangible. It's wild to think about where I was a year ago. Back then, I felt completely stuck, like I had no options and no one in my corner. Now I'm finally starting to see a way forward. It's not perfect, and there's still a lot I need to figure out, but I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. To anyone out there who feels like they're trapped in a bad situation, all I can say is this: keep pushing. It's not easy, and it might take longer than you'd like, but things can get better. You just have to take it one step at a time. That's it for now. I'll probably update again on my 18th birthday and let you know what's next. Thanks for reading and for all the advice and support along the way. It's helped more than you know.